Well, welcome everybody to episode 2. We're still working out the bugs of Meet the Makers. So I'm Artie Nuttall.
I'm Stacy. Goodbye.
Yes, my better half in a lot of ways. But we're super excited to be with you guys today and to share a little bit more about suspension. So today we've got a number of different components that we'll be talking about. This is the A-arm for the suspension, the spring, obviously shocks, and a number of other components here. So we're excited to share with you how we designed them and whatnot.
So it's always nice for each of the Meet the Makers. We want to share kind of a different aspect of the trailer and kind of get into the nitty gritty of it. So we'll do that with the suspension today, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers, and we'll take questions and comments on any aspect of the trailer, not just the suspension. But for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, just to give you kind of a quick background on why we even built these trailers, and then specifically why we even got into making our own suspension. So 20 years ago, in our 2-car garage in Tucson, Arizona, we started Artec. And at that time, it was Artec Welding and Fabrication. And the whole reason why we even started that was because Artie wanted to put some bumpers and roll cage on his garage.
Yeah, which, by the way, Stacy encouraged me and was very much the inspiration behind that, because I had never 4-wheeled before I met her.
So when we first met, I knew that he was somebody pretty special, and I definitely wanted, to be a part of his life. But when I found out he'd never 4-wheeled, I was like, oh, that might be a problem, because I come from a family that's just what we did on the weekends. My teenage years, we were just always out 4-wheeling. My dad loved it. He had 4 daughters. So I'm the oldest of 4 girls, but he did not care that we were boys. He was like, you're going to 4-wheel, you're going to hunt, you're going to fish, you're going to camp, you're going to do all these fun things. So that's just what I grew up doing. And I knew that I needed to find out if he was worthy enough.
Look at Bill, right? Yeah.
Took him out 4-wheeling, and then it was probably about a decade before I got to be behind the wheel again.
Yeah, I fell in love twice. So yeah.
So 4-wheeling, camping, being outdoors has always been a major part of our lives together. And we have 5 children. We got to the point where, for me, camping was just really difficult. All of the preparation and all the cleanup afterwards, it just wasn't any fun anymore. So we stopped camping for a bit, and that was really sad.
Yeah, I mean, here and there, but yeah, it was not something I was too eager. Right. Well, neither one of us, because yeah, again, like Stacy said, it was just so much work.
Yeah. So it already changed that for us. He was like, that's it. We are getting out. We're going to camp. And not only are we going to camp, but we're going to take some of the most gnarly roads and go camp out where other people don't camp.
Yeah. So well, it's like you like to 4-wheel, right? So, like, that's where we got to do it.
Yeah. And so that's how the Voyager trailer came to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but, like Stacy talked about, initially all that was Artec Welding and then later Artec Industries, right, was all about off-roading. I mean, it was all about making amazing components for off-road vehicles, and Jeep, of course, right? That's been our mainstay or primary vehicle that we've developed products for over the years. But all of that, we did axle reinforcement, suspension, steering, different accessories, and so doing a suspension for the trailer was really just second nature. It was awesome. It was a challenge, and we actually have our engineer Phil Rawlings. He couldn't be here with us tonight, but
he was going to.
Yeah, but he helped me put together a little video that we're going to share with you guys tonight. I literally just finished it like 15 minutes ago. So, no pressure. So, anyway, this hopefully will give you a little bit of insight and kind of backstory as to how we went about doing this, and a few of the wins, for us here in the shop, and some of the testing, which was pretty fun. It's pretty cool. So I'm gonna see if I can get, share this here.
Hey, I'm Phil Rawlings. I'm the engineer for Xpedition Trailers, and they're very brave for putting an engineer on camera. We started off with a sketch, and here we've got the sketch that we actually used to design this suspension. You've got our frame rail here, our suspension arm, the axle, a approximation of the spring, the shock here. We looked at the shock angle to be able to get the tuning in it that we needed, but also the travel that we needed in the shock and in the spring. So all that started here on this sketch, and we were able to pull our numbers from this sketch to be able to bring it over here into the calculator, where we looked at our springs. There's lots of different things to consider with a spring. There's the overall diameter of the spring. There's the spring rate, or how many coils or wraps it has per inch. And then there's the diameter of the wire. And so all these things are in this calculator to give us the suspension travel we needed, to give us the weight that we needed, to give us the ability to not have this thing be a pogo stick. You need to be able to have the spring soft enough that it can move and can allow the shock to do its work. So once we got done with this, we settled on a design. This was our very first one. They look quite a bit similar, but there's actually a lot of differences between these two. And from this, we were able to say, okay, we need to change the spring rate a little bit. We need a little bit more suspension travel. And so by doing some innovative things with the design of the frame, we were able to come to this 13-inch spring, which gives us over 4 inches of travel. So from here, we started with a preliminary design, and that's what this is. One of the things that we didn't like was this step here, and that's what we were just talking about also with the height of the spring. We were able to do some innovative things with the frame to be able to allow us to tuck it up in. And here you have the actual production version of the design. So you can see the shock laying at a nice angle there. That allows us to get the shock travel that we need to get the tuning rates, not have the shock overheat. Also, the springs are at a great spot where the rate of the spring is going to allow us to have a long spring life, and it's also going to allow us to let the suspension travel like it needs to off-road, but have the stability on-road. Everything is a balance. So the arms themselves were designed. We've got a 4x2 tube here, a 2x2 tube in triangulation. We ran this through FEA, through stress analysis, to ensure that this arm is going to handle the rigors of an off-road trail and the uses that this is intended for. A lot of these components were not just things that we found that worked. These are things that we specifically designed and had manufactured to our specifications to give this suspension the performance that we were really looking for.
Oh yeah. All the suspension stuff?
You see those coil springs?
No. Did they already come in?
On the pallet that just went in.
Oh yeah.
Looks like they've done a beautiful job for it.
Oh yeah. super coils. Woohoo! We did it!
Hey guys, Artie with Xpedition Trailers here, and just got done running this crazy dirt road right back here, and the weather just came in on me. Check this out, it's like, I don't know, snowing, pelletizing, whatever the heck this stuff is. It's like half hail, half snow. So at any rate, check out this footage. It's pretty sweet.
So when I first start driving, I'm going between 5 and 10 miles an hour just to ensure that I wasn't gonna, damage anything, that the trailer was looking good and feeling good. And what I was looking for specifically was that the trailer wasn't bouncing around too much. It was stabilizing after each rock or dip in the road, and it really was feeling good. So I started increasing speed. And I want you to pay close attention to how quickly the suspension stabilizes after each bump or rock. Really cool, right? Seeing it soaking up those bumps, those rocks in the road. And at this point, I'm going like 15 or so miles an hour. And again, look how smoothly, right, the suspension is handling all that. So right here is where I'm turning around, and there's this huge puddle. It's like 10 inches deep that I get to go through, which is pretty cool. And this is when the weather really started coming in on me. And you can see that here in this footage, right? It's a whole lot darker. And this was only a couple minutes after I turned around. And I used this as a convenient excuse to increase speed and just get the heck out of there. So at this point, I'm going right around 25 miles an hour, and it was feeling really good, but it starts getting a little crazy right up here. And I actually catch air with the truck and the trailer. Now, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone, but it was so cool to see how well that suspension just soaked up those bumps, returned to a stabilized condition, and was good to go. So at any rate, hope you enjoyed this suspension testing.
All right, well, hopefully you guys like that. And Paul, huge thanks. So sorry. It's amazing when you get in the moment, you just like forget everything. So yeah, share audio, that's a good button. So at any rate, so Phil talked about some of the design process that he went through when we were collaborating and designing the suspension. So this right here is our suspension, like our production spring. But I wanted to show you guys real quick some of the prototypes, because he didn't really touch on that, but well, there was one in the video, but we actually went through 4 different springs in testing. And this one we thought was going to be the money spring, but it was not. Any rate, so we went through a lot of different trial and error, and in a lot of these we were close, and the same kind of went with the shock as well. You might have noticed kind of in the middle of that video there was a shock testing video. So we were testing the dampening, and so we were doing like ultra slow-mo footage, and we had a lot more than just that little clip, but I thought I'd show that because it kind of illustrated what we went through. But we would analyze on the same bump, right? We kind of found this section in the road that we could go the same speed and get the hit it kind of right at the same angle every time, and then be able to video that and then come back and put all of those videos side by side and analyze how many cycles, right, or compressions on the spring did it take for it to stabilize, right? And that was all about the dampening. We worked with 3 different shock manufacturers before we finally landed on the shock that we're using now, and it's made specifically just for us for the trailer. Same thing with the spring. I mean, we only went through one. We have one manufacturer for the spring, and they're local here in Utah. But really cool. I mean, you know, they made all these prototypes for us, and you know, we and then, you know, the same thing goes, grab the bushing there. Same thing goes for the bushing. Sorry. So this bushing, we had it was either 2, I think 2 different bushings, 2 or 3 different bushings that we went through, but before we finally got exactly the right durometer of the polyurethane and then the right, you know, length and everything. We make these, well, Artec makes these for us just across the street or across the parking lot here. And same with the cam bolts right here. So these cam bolts, we use these to dial the suspension. So there's a kind of a U on the side of the ears that come down to hold these A-arms, right, on either side of the A-arms. And actually, let me, we'll just switch here. Maybe you guys can see this a little bit better. So the brackets that hold this A-arm, right, there's a U on each one, and they're perfectly positioned to only fit the width of this cam washer. And as you can see, as I move it, right, as I kind of move that cam washer, it's moving this bolt around, right? And so that enables us to get, it's the same principle as like on a car or a, you know, buggy or whatever off-road vehicle. You can adjust the camber and also the toe of the arm. So it allows us to dial it in before it leaves, and then also for our customers to be able to, you know, easily service and get that alignment back in if they, you know, take something really hard, like kind of like I did, right, when I was testing. So anyway, we should probably check the alignment, but it seemed fine afterwards. So yeah, so all of this stuff we make most of it we make in-house. The limiting straps, those are going to keep constant tension on the spring. So the spring just fits right here into this, you know, lower spring bucket. And then as you can see, the spindle and tire mounts on right there, and the shock goes right here in the middle. And then we have these little clips for the brake line that comes down, the brake wire, I should say, the 12-volt wire. So at any rate, really cool. We've done a lot of work, a lot of testing, a lot of trial and error, and that's off the heels of, you know, our experience, you know, with Artec and off-road and suspension. So
Yeah.
right.
The reasons why I like this suspension is because it keeps my stuff in place. So when we're going, things aren't
Unless you
unless
the
you,
trailer.
yeah.
There's a limit
Unless
to
Artie's
everything, right?
driving.
Yeah, unless I haven't been driving, yeah.
Other benefits of, you know, having the suspension custom made for the Voyager is it just allows us, what was the word that Phil was using, like getting it in harmony?
Oh, the harmonics of the suspension. So when, yeah, that's a really important factor, that you're not getting this constant bouncing, right? There's a fine line between dampening your suspension and allowing it to move, right? And so, I think that's what he was referring
Yeah,
to.
yeah. And one of the great benefits of that is less wear and tear on the trailer itself and the
Yeah.
components that are in it. You know, the less
Yeah.
that those things are bouncing around, the longer they'll last.
Yeah, yeah. So as all of you know, the Voyager trailer is made primarily out of aluminum. Now, aluminum is fantastic, and the way that we put it together is great, but it doesn't handle point loading or, you know, like really sharp loading as well as steel does. And for that and for that reason, I'll go ahead and switch back to this camera here and kind of point this out. We developed, and this was from the very beginning, right? So this is a steel, we call it a Z plate. Hopefully you can see this pretty well, but this is called, we call it a Z plate, right? Because it's kind of shaped like a Z, right? And this is the bucket, right? That the coil mounts in underneath the frame. And what this Z plate does is it attaches, right, along each one of these bolts, and then along these bolts down below as well, to the frame. And so you're not just getting, or it's not just the spring on the frame, right? It's actually a cradle along each side. So this Z plate goes on each both passenger and driver side, and it cradles that frame. So you have a 6-inch frame, right? And then we cradle that frame. So if you do take a super hard hit, we actually had a trailer in here a few months ago that took a really bad hit, and there was some damage to the previous suspension that we were using, not this, but and we had to replace a number of things. And when we looked at the frame and, you know, to make sure everything was straight and took some dimensions and everything, it was perfect. It was totally fine. And I really feel that this design is, you know, an attributing factor to that, right? Because again, it was cradling the whole frame. It was, you know what I mean, protecting it, if you will.
Yeah.
So, and the cross member also mounts to this. So the cross member that the A-arms come off of is also mounted to the front of that. So your entire suspension package or system, if you will, is fully attached to the, like a sub frame below the frame. I don't know if that is a good way to describe it, but anyway, it's worked incredibly well. So, yeah.
Well,
So
is that everything you wanted to say about this?
yeah, the one last thing that I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit more is, you know, there's been a few people that have asked, like, oh man, why don't you have more travel, or why don't you, like, gosh, you know, other trailer manufacturers have like 8 or 10 inches of travel or whatever, like, why don't you do more travel? And you know, it's a valid question, but really, like Phil was saying in the video, it's a very delicate balance between all of the different factors. And one thing that was really important to us was the ingress and egress, right? The getting in and out of the trailer, right? And then also using the kitchen.
I'm not very tall.
Yeah.
I didn't want the trailer up to here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, we certainly could have made a, you know, 8, 10, whatever, 12-inch travel suspension, but you know, you kind of lose functionality with that as well. And as you could see in the video, I mean,
Anything your truck can do,
it's
that trailer can do, and
yeah,
we know that.
yeah, it's pretty incredible. And it's worked out really well. So yeah, well, let's unless there's anything else, let's
No, we want
open
to
it up.
hear what you guys have
Yeah,
to say.
you guys-
Is there any questions? We've got plenty of time. Last time, it kind of felt like we had to rush through the questions, and we wanted to make sure that we have plenty of time, so go for
Yeah,
it. Start
yeah.
to send us any questions you've got about anything regarding the trailer.
Can you retrofit? So Jamie asked if we can retrofit the new suspension to old trailers. And that is absolutely something that we were mindful of in the design process. And again, like I mentioned before, these Z plates are part of every single trailer that we've ever made, with the exception of the very first prototype. So, so every, trailer that's out there, or, anyway, except for that one, because that one's still on the road, but has that, and all the bolts, bolt holes and everything in the same location. There would need to be, or there will need to be, some frame modification in order to make that happen. And it's something that we've been, kind of working on, and pretty
It'll be
close.
pretty soon.
So
Pretty
yeah.
soon that would be available.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So Jeremy and Jamie, never fear, we got you covered. Awesome. The other thing too is for Jennifer, with regard to us shorties, right? So we all appreciate a lower trailer. We also have the ability to go up to 35-inch tires with the new suspension. So, and we've had a couple customers do that already.
And they look awesome.
Yeah, they're very, yeah, they do look awesome,
Yeah.
beefy, and
Makes me wish I was taller.
yeah. But what that does is raises the trailer, right?
Yeah.
Because now you have more tire and whatnot. So so the trailer can really comfortably accommodate people that are over 6 feet. I mean, I don't know, six. What's the tallest? we've had
6'6", I think was the
6'6",
tallest. we've had.
Tallest,
Yeah, that's over
person we've had,
6'6",
so.
and
yeah,
I don't remember how tall the wife was, but she was tall. So
yeah. So anyway, just to kind of throw that out there as well. So. What kind of maintenance will your suspension need? That's a fantastic question. Thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't mention that already. So the suspension, like I pointed out earlier, has polyurethane bushings, right? And these bushings go, there's on either side of the tubes here. So really the only maintenance, man, that's heavy. This on this end here is just solid steel. So, so right here, if you can see this, jump over to the other camera here. I don't know, maybe that doesn't help, but so anyway, right here and right here, they're not installed at the moment, but this is where Zerk fittings go. And so based on your usage, you'll want to grease those Zerk fittings. And then also at the end of, and this really relates to any trailer, not just ours, but greasing the spindle as well, at regular intervals. And then the brake backing plate, the brake shoes, you want to make sure that those are in good order. The brakes that we use are a 7,000 pound capacity, 12-inch drum brake. So more than enough stopping power. But hopefully that, and that's really it. Occasionally, like I mentioned, a realignment based on tire wear. If you're noticing your tires wearing on the inside or outside, you just need to adjust for that, whether that be toe or camber. So Paul asked, did you ever look at airbag suspension like Patriot campers have? Just saw it's a nice feature to be able to level them. So airbag suspension is definitely something that we were talking about and considering, or wanting to make provisions for. And that's actually why we've got a round hole in the center here of the spring bucket. And then also on the top of the Z plate in the spring, the upper spring bucket as well. So it's something that we're not currently working on at the moment, but really looking to have that as an option, in the future, whether that be later this year or 2024, we're not entirely sure, but that will certainly be something that you could retrofit onto this. I mean, because we're going to use these components. So
Any tips on checking alignment?
oh yeah, Chris. Yeah. So checking alignment, so you want to have, if you take off your tire and you put a straight edge against the machined portion, or where the rim of the tire match up to your hub, right? There's a machined surface. It's right where the studs stick out of the hub. And you want to make sure that you're on that surface, and you use a straight edge across, put it against there. And you want to go 15 inches forward and 15 inches backwards and measure to the frame, right? To the side of the frame on front and back. And the front should be in a 1/16 of an inch. So, if you start noticing wear on the outside edges of your tires, then you might be toe in too far. If you notice wear on the inside of your tires, right? So if your tires are going down the road like this, then you're going to get more wear on the inside of those tires, then that would mean that you're toe out. So, and that method of checking will work on a Timbren suspension as well as on this suspension as well. So, yeah. So hopefully that helps. And please, Chris, if you have, further questions or want more detail or want to talk through it, just give us a call. We'd be more than happy to talk you through it and, help you determine, if you're out of alignment or where you're at. So anytime.
Yeah. I think it's about time for us to wrap up, actually.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate you and love doing this. And even if it is a little stressful, it's always fun to connect, and gives us a great excuse to get some more videos made and whatnot. So hopefully it's enjoyable for you guys.
And educational.
And educational. And please send us your comments, questions, maybe future topic ideas. We have a few that we're planning on doing.
The next Meet the Makers will be all about our power system and why we call this a smart trailer. So it'll be about the Red Rd and all the different power components. So we have stuffed into this little trailer. So that I can use my hairdryer and an Instant Pot. And control it all with my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, have a great evening.
Yeah.
Again, thanks
happy
so much.
adventuring. The weather's getting warmer, so I'm sure everybody's getting their trips planned.
And spring is going to be incredible with all this rain that we've been getting and snow. So, at any rate, have a great evening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. See you.
Bye.